The evening sun had almost disappeared behind the tall buildings when Ryan walked out of the small pharmacy at the corner of Maple Street, his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, resting weakly in his arms. Her tiny face was pale, her eyes half closed, and her hand clutched a little teddy bear with a missing ear. He looked down at the bag of medicine in his other hand and then at the few crumpled bills in his pocket. The total cost of the medicine had taken nearly every dollar he had left. Rent was due in 2 days, and there was nothing in the refrigerator except a half loaf of bread and an old jar of peanut butter. Ryan wasn't always struggling. He had once been a confident mechanic, working for a car company that had gone bankrupt 2 years ago. After that, everything seemed to fall apart. His wife had passed away after a long illness, leaving him with their only child. Since then, he had taken any odd job he could find, cleaning garages, washing cars, delivering newspapers before dawn, anything to keep Lily fed and safe. As he walked through the chilly street that night, Lily coughed softly against his shoulder. Ryan's heart tightened. The doctor had warned that she needed the full dose of her medicine for the next 10 days. But as he reached the bus stop, he looked at the small paper bag again. He knew he couldn't afford another refill. The medicine alone cost more than what he would earn in a week. He reached the bus stop bench and sat down, rocking Lily gently. Across the street, in front of a large glass building, a sleek black car stopped. A woman in an elegant gray suit stepped out, followed by a driver who held an umbrella over her head. She looked powerful, confident, graceful, and completely out of place in Ryan's world. Her name was Emma Crawford, CEO of Crawford Enterprises, one of the biggest firms in the city. She didn't notice him at first. She was talking on her phone, her heels clicking against the pavement as she walked toward the building entrance. Ryan didn't know who she was, and he didn't care. But fate had its own plans that evening. When Lily's cough grew worse, Ryan opened the bag and took out the small bottle of syrup. He hesitated. It was still unopened. His mind raced as he stared at it. He thought of the rent, the empty fridge, and the fact that he wouldn't have bus fare for work tomorrow if he didn't return it. He stood up, kissed Lily's forehead, and whispered, "I'm sorry, baby. Daddy will figure something out." Then, with heavy steps, he walked back toward the pharmacy. From across the street, Emma glanced up for a moment, distracted by the sight of a man carrying a child and holding a medicine bag. She didn't think much of it until she saw him hand the bag back through the pharmacy window and walk away empty-handed. Something in that scene struck her, the way his shoulders slumped, the child's small hand resting on his chest. There was quiet desperation there. Emma couldn't look away. For reasons she couldn't explain, she turned to her driver and said, "Wait here a minute." Then she followed them. Ryan didn't notice her behind him as he walked down the street toward the bus stop again. He just sat there, staring at the pavement while Lily drifted off to sleep on his lap. His phone buzzed with a message, his boss reminding him that if he missed one more shift, he'd lose his job. Emma stood a few steps away, unsure what to say. She wasn't used to talking to strangers, much less those from a world so different from hers. But something inside her told her she had to step forward. "Excuse me," she said softly. Ryan looked up, startled. Standing before him was a woman who looked like she belonged on the front page of a business magazine. He straightened up, embarrassed by his worn-out clothes and messy hair. "Yes," he asked politely. "I saw you at the pharmacy," she said carefully. "You returned your daughter's medicine." "Why?" He hesitated, looking away. It's just too expensive," he muttered. "I thought maybe I could find a cheaper one somewhere else." Emma could tell he was lying. She could hear the strain in his voice, see the exhaustion in his eyes. "Is she sick?" she asked, looking at the little girl in his arms. "She's been fighting a bad infection," he said quietly. "Doctor said she needs that medicine for 10 days straight, but..." He stopped, swallowing hard. "I'll make it work somehow." Emma felt a lump rise in her throat. She had seen poverty before, but never this close, never this real. "Wait here," she said and turned back toward the pharmacy. Before Ryan could stop her, she had walked across the street and disappeared inside. 10 minutes later, she came back carrying a small paper bag, the same one he had returned, but this time, it was filled with not just medicine, but additional vitamins and syrup. She handed it to him. "I can't accept this," Ryan said immediately, shaking his head. "It's not charity," Emma replied firmly. "Consider it a loan. Pay it back when you can." He stared at her, unsure what to say. "Thank you," he finally whispered, his voice trembling. She smiled faintly. Take care of your daughter. Ryan nodded, his eyes moist. You didn't have to. Yes, I did, she interrupted gently. I couldn't walk away. As she turned to leave, Lily opened her eyes slightly and whispered, "Thank you, lady." Her tiny voice made Emma smile for the first time that day. Over the next few days, Ryan didn't see her again. He focused on nursing Lily back to health and working double shifts at the warehouse. Every night, when he tucked her into bed, he silently prayed for the kind stranger who had helped them. But fate wasn't done intertwining their paths. A week later, Ryan was at the Crawford Enterprises building, hoping to apply for a maintenance job he had seen in the newspaper. He was nervous, dressed in his cleanest shirt and holding his small resume. When he stepped into the lobby, he froze. The large portrait on the wall, it was her. The same woman who had helped him that night. Emma Crawford. He almost turned around, but something inside pushed him forward. The receptionist smiled. "You're here for the maintenance position." "Yes, ma'am," he replied. Ryan Cooper. Within minutes, he was asked to wait for a brief interview with the CEO herself. He thought it must be a mistake. Why would someone like her personally interview a maintenance worker? When Emma walked into the room and saw him, she blinked in surprise. "You?" Ryan stood up immediately. "Ma'am, I didn't know this was your company. Emma smiled warmly. "No need to explain. I'm glad you came." The interview turned into a conversation. She asked about his experience, his background, and his daughter. He answered honestly, his humility and sincerity shining through every word. At the end, she said, "You're hired." He stared at her, stunned. "But, ma'am, no buts," she said. "You deserve a chance." From that day on, Ryan worked harder than anyone else in the building. He fixed machines, stayed late, helped others without complaint. His coworkers respected him, though few knew his story. Emma often saw him from her office window, the man who once couldn't afford his daughter's medicine now working tirelessly to build a new life. She admired his determination. One day, during a company-wide meeting, the air conditioning system broke down just minutes before the event. Panic spread through the staff, but Ryan climbed up and fixed it in record time. The meeting went perfectly, and Emma mentioned his name in her speech, saying, "Sometimes, the most valuable people in a company are not the ones sitting at the top, but the ones who keep everything running quietly behind the scenes." After the applause, Ryan could barely hold back tears. Weeks passed, and Lily got better. One afternoon, when Ryan came to pick her up from school, he found Emma waiting outside in her car. She smiled and waved him over. "Hop in," she said. "I have something to show you." He hesitated, then climbed in with Lily. They drove through the city until they reached a quiet neighborhood. She stopped in front of a small, cozy house with a white fence and a garden full of flowers. "What is this?" Ryan asked, confused. "Company housing," she said with a smile. "You've been promoted, head of maintenance. Comes with a better salary and, this place." He shook his head, speechless. "I don't know what to say." "Just say yes," she replied gently. Tears welled up in his eyes as he looked at the house, then at Lily, who was smiling from ear to ear. "We have a home now, Daddy," she shouted. Emma's heart swelled with emotion. She had everything, power, wealth, respect, but that moment, seeing their joy, gave her something she hadn't felt in years, peace. Months later, during the company's annual dinner, Ryan stood up to give a short speech. He was nervous, but he wanted everyone to know the truth. "There was a time," he began, "when I couldn't even afford to buy my daughter's medicine. That night, someone saw us, someone who didn't look away. She didn't just give me help, she gave me hope." He turned toward Emma. "You changed our lives, ma'am. And I'll never forget that." The hall went silent, then erupted into applause. Emma's eyes glistened with tears as she smiled proudly. After the event, she approached him quietly. "You know, Ryan," she said, "helping you helped me too. It reminded me why I started this company in the first place, to make a difference." He nodded, his voice soft. "You did, ma'am, more than you know." That night, as Ryan walked home with Lily by his side, the city lights seemed a little brighter. Life wasn't easy, but it was good, full of kindness, gratitude, and second chances. And somewhere deep down, both he and Emma knew that sometimes, a single act of compassion could change everything, not just for one man, but for two souls who needed to find hope again.